Picture this. It is 2026. You spent $450 on a brand new battery just 3 weeks ago. You walk out to your garage on a freezing Tuesday morning, you slide behind the wheel, you turn the key, and you get absolutely nothing. No crank, no click, no dashboard lights. Not even the tiny ding that tells you the door is open. Your car is a 2-ton paperweight. You stand there in the cold, staring at the dashboard, and you feel that sickening drop in your stomach because you know exactly what comes next. The $35 tow truck call that somehow turns into a $180 bill by the time the driver hooks the chains. The desperate jump start that gets you running just long enough to limp the car into the nearest auto shop. And then, the moment they have been training for since their first day of Stealership boot camp, the service writer slides a printed quote across the counter and says those magic words. "Sir, we are going to need to do a full electrical diagnostic. We are looking at a possible short circuit in the main wiring harness, and there is a strong chance your body control module is failing and frying your batteries. We need at least 4 hours of labor to trace the lines, and you are looking at right around $1,000 just to get started. $1,000 to find a problem that takes a 14-year-old kid with a cell phone exactly 10 seconds to locate. I want you to sit with that number for a second, because it is one of the most disgusting, exploitative numbers in the entire 2026 automotive service industry, and the only reason they get away with charging it is because electricity is invisible. You cannot see a wire short, you cannot smell a parasitic draw, you cannot hear a milliamp leak. So when the man in the polo shirt with the embroidered logo tells you that your body control module is fried and that he needs 4 hours to trace your wiring harness, you nod, you sign the work authorization, and you hand over $1,000 of your hard-earned post-tax money for a problem that 90% of the time is a single broken plastic switch the size of a pencil eraser hiding inside your glove box. The dealerships making billions off your electrical panic want you to think phantom battery drain is some untouchable black box sorcery only they can decipher with their $15,000 diagnostic computers. It isn't. It's basic DC amperage and broken mechanical switches that any human being with a pulse and a smartphone can diagnose in under 5 minutes. But as always, I'm sharing this forensic diagnostic trick for educational and historical observation purposes, so please, when you handle hot glass bulbs or work near a car battery, use common sense, let things cool down, and don't go yanking random fuses out of your engine bay if you don't know what they do. Let me show you the engineering. Let me walk you through exactly why what your mechanic is telling you is, with brutal honesty, a flat-out lie designed to trigger the most expensive possible repair. A modern car battery, the standard Group 35 or Group 24F you find in most Japanese and Western vehicles, has what engineers call a reserve capacity. That reserve capacity is rated in amp hours, typically somewhere between 60 and 90 amp hours for a passenger vehicle. When you turn that key off and walk away, your vehicle does not actually shut off. It enters what engineers and the SAE standardization body call sleep mode. Your body control module, your radio memory, your keyless entry receiver, your anti-theft computer, your engine control unit memory. Every single one of those modules stays partially awake to listen for your key fob and to retain its programming. Combined, all of those modules together are engineered to draw no more than 50 milliamps, 50 thousandths of an amp. That is the universal industry threshold. At 50 milliamps of draw, a healthy battery can sit untouched in your garage for somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks before it finally goes flat. That is the specification, that is the math, that is the reality. So now ask yourself the question that the Stealership service writer does not want you asking. If your alternator is genuinely frying your battery, as they claim, your battery would not be dead in the morning. It would be boiling, it would be venting hydrogen gas, you would smell sulfur every single time you pop the hood, you would have voltage readings of 15.5, 16 volts at the terminals. And if you genuinely had a real short circuit in the main wiring harness, as they love to claim, your battery would not just slowly drain overnight, it would discharge violently in less than 20 minutes, and you would see the smoke. You would smell the plastic insulation burning. The fuses for that circuit would have blown the very first time the short occurred. A real short does not whisper. A real short screams. What is actually happening to your car is the polar opposite of a short. It is the textbook definition of a parasitic draw. And parasitic draw is the silent killer they refuse to talk about, because parasitic draw is found in 90% of cases in under 5 minutes by a half-competent technician. They cannot bill 4 hours of labor at $180 an hour for a 5-minute fix, so they invent the wiring harness fairy tale, and they pray you are too scared and too tired to question it. If you are tired of auto shops charging you $1,000 in labor to trace a wiring short that doesn't even exist, hit the like button right now and crush that subscribe button. The algorithm is actively suppressing this kind of repair education because every single view costs the corporate service industry real money. Drop a comment below and tell me if your car has ever mysteriously died overnight, what shop you took it to, and how much money you wasted trying to fix something that was never actually broken in the first place. I read every single one of those comments, and I use them to expose new scams every single week. Now let me show you the actual villain, the actual physical, mechanical, microscopic enemy that is killing your battery overnight. It is not the alternator. It is not the wiring harness. It is not the body control module. It is a tiny piece of bent plastic about 1 centimeter long called a plunger switch, and there are between 3 and 6 of them in every single modern vehicle. There is one in the glove box, there is one in the trunk lid, there is one in the rear hatch if you drive an SUV, there is sometimes one in the center console. And in some vehicles, there is even one in the engine bay near the hood latch for the underhood lamp. Every single one of those switches is the same basic design. A spring-loaded plastic post that gets pushed in when you close the lid, which breaks the circuit and shuts off the courtesy light. When you open the lid, the spring pops the plastic post back out, which completes the circuit and turns the bulb on. Simple, elegant, brilliant engineering when it works. Here's the problem. Those plastic posts are made of injection-molded polypropylene, which becomes brittle after about 8 to 10 years of repeated stress cycles. The spring inside gets weak. The metal contacts inside get oxidized. And one day, somewhere between year 7 and year 12, that plunger snaps, or it sticks halfway, and the switch fails to break the circuit when the lid closes. Your glove box light, that hot little 5-watt incandescent bulb, stays on 24 hours a day, trapped behind a closed door where you cannot see it, cannot hear it, and have absolutely no idea it exists. Your trunk light does the same thing, your hatch light does the same thing, and you go about your daily life completely unaware that a 5-watt vampire is sucking the life out of your brand new $450 battery every single second of every single day. Let me give you the math, because the math is what makes this a crime. A standard incandescent glove box bulb draws between 400 and 500 milliamps of current at 12 volts DC. 500 milliamps is half an amp. Multiply that by the 12-volt system and you get 6 watts of constant power draw. That doesn't sound like much, but watch what happens when you run it continuously. A healthy, fully charged car battery holds roughly 60 amp hours of usable reserve. 6 watts of draw, 24 hours a day, equals 144 watt-hours of energy lost per day. At a nominal 12 volts, that is 12 amp hours bled out of your battery every single day. In 5 days, that single bulb has consumed 60 amp hours. Your entire reserve capacity. Gone. Your battery is now sitting at a dead voltage floor of around 10.5 volts, which is below the minimum cranking threshold for a starter motor. You turn the key, and you get silence. Total silence. The lights don't even flicker. And the worst part, the part that should genuinely make you angry, is that every single mechanic in the industry already knows this. Every single one. They learned it in their first semester at trade school. They saw it on their first month on the floor. They know exactly where every single courtesy light switch is in every common vehicle on the road. They have a 1 amp clamp meter sitting on their workbench that costs $40 and can find a parasitic draw in under 60 seconds. But they will not pull that clamp meter out for you because the clamp meter does not generate revenue. The clamp meter ends the conversation. So they walk past it, they grab a clipboard, and they invent a $1,000 fairy tale about your body control module. Here is the Japanese master mechanic trick. The trick they have been using in Tokyo and Osaka service bays for 30 years before YouTube even existed. The trick that costs you exactly $0 and takes exactly 2 minutes. You pull out your smartphone. Any smartphone. You open the standard built-in video camera application. You hit the red record button. You take that phone and you place it gently inside your glove box, with the camera lens pointing up and out toward the inside of the glove box door. You firmly close the glove box until you hear the latch click. You wait 10 or 15 seconds. You stand there in silence. Then you open it, you grab the phone, you stop the recording, and you scrub through the playback. If the video shows pitch black darkness the entire time the door was shut, your glove box switch is healthy and you need to repeat the test in your trunk. If the video shows that little glass bulb glowing white hot the entire time the door was closed, congratulations. You have just found a $1,000 parasitic draw with a free phone camera in under 2 minutes. You have just diagnosed your own car. You have just beaten the Stealership at their own game. Now repeat that exact same test in the trunk. Toss the phone on top of the spare tire well with the camera facing up at the trunk light. Close the trunk lid, wait 15 seconds, open it, review the footage. Then do it in the rear hatch, in the center console, anywhere there is a closed compartment with a courtesy light. You are doing what is called, in the trade, a visual amperage audit. You are using a $600 smartphone as a $180 an hour diagnostic tool. And you are running circles around technicians with 20 years of certification because you are willing to think for 30 seconds instead of just paying the bill. When you find the offending bulb, the fix is even more insulting in its simplicity. You wait 5 minutes. 5 full minutes, because incandescent bulbs run extremely hot. They sit at a glass surface temperature of around 200 degrees Fahrenheit while energized, and you will burn your fingertips badly if you grab one straight off the circuit. Once it is cool, you simply reach in with your bare hand, you grip the small glass bulb gently, you give it a quarter turn counterclockwise, and you pull it straight out of its socket. That is it. That is the entire repair. The vampire is dead. Your battery will sit untouched for weeks without losing a single volt. You can drive it down to the auto parts store at your leisure, buy a $1.99 replacement bulb, and at some point when you are bored on a Sunday afternoon, you can pop the new bulb in and disassemble the cheap plunger switch with a flathead screwdriver to fix the actual root cause for under $3 total. You just saved $997. You just saved an entire afternoon of your life. You just exposed the most profitable lie in the modern service department, the electrical short scam. Now, listen closely to the safety side, because I take this part seriously. Incandescent bulbs, especially after running for days straight inside a sealed compartment, get hot. Painfully hot. Let the bulb cool completely before you touch it with bare skin. If you must remove it while it is still warm, use a folded paper towel or a thin rag as a heat buffer. When you are working anywhere near the car battery itself, never touch both terminals with the same metal tool. Never wear loose jewelry around battery posts. And if your battery is visibly swollen, leaking fluid, or smells like rotten eggs, do not try to be a hero. Replace it. And under no circumstances should you start pulling random fuses out of your engine bay or your kick panel fuse box to test for draws unless you have a labeled diagram of which fuse controls which circuit, because pulling the wrong fuse can disable your airbag system, your anti-lock brakes, or your fuel pump immobilizer. Stick to the glove box, the trunk, the hatch, and the visible courtesy lights. Those are your safe targets. If this saved you $1,000, smash that like button and subscribe before the electrical diagnostic lobby gets this kind of education buried under a mountain of sponsored Stealership content. Share this with one person in your life who is about to get scammed at a service counter this week. There is someone in your phone contact list right now who needs this exact information, and forwarding this video is a free gift that pays them back $1,000 real. I will see you on the next